So is anybody else watching the live feed of April the giraffe on YouTube? I feel like she was supposed to give birth like a month ago. Yeah. Hi everybody, it's Erin again. I'm gonna try and be a little quiet because I have a sleepy baby. But before I forget, make sure you subscribe so you can see more videos. And if you like these candid chats, let me know and I'll keep doing them. But today I really want to talk about childbirth. I know that may seem a little bit daunting. I'm not going to get into any gruesome details, I promise. I just want to talk about a few things that I didn't know about, and it would have been a little helpful to know as I was going to the hospital to have my child and I was terrified. So I know a lot of people will tell you their stories. They'll say, this is how my birth went, this is how it was at the hospital, this is how it was during my pregnancy. The truth is, everyone is so different, and I know you're going to hear that as well, but it's true. Everyone will have a different experience with pregnancy and with childbirth. First of all, you're going to be nervous. I guess this is more the thing, maybe not something that someone didn't tell me, but something that someone over told me. They told me scary stories from, epidurals not working, to epidurals putting half of your body to sleep, to tearing, and just all sorts of terrifying things. And for me, I really had no idea what to expect. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, this is going to be a horrifying experience, because that's what you see in the movies. People are going to tell you their bad stories. And so sometimes it would be nice if someone told you a good story about childbirth, because really it's a terrifying experience, because it's something that you can't really anticipate. You're going to be different than everyone else. So I went to the hospital thinking, it's going to just be so painful and it's going to be horrible, and I didn't know what to expect. The birth of my child actually turned out to be the complete opposite of what I thought it was going to be. It was actually very calm and cool. There was no screaming. There was nothing that went horribly wrong. So for me, I think what happened is, as always, I built it up in my mind to be this thing that was going to be horrible, but actually it was fantastic. I say fantastic a lot. Actually, it turned out to be the best experience. I think with the circumstances of actually giving birth to a child, it was probably the best situation that it could have been ever. So me really not knowing what to expect, it actually turned out to be extremely calm. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I want to tell my good story because then maybe it might give hope to people that they're going to have a smooth childbirth. But then on the other hand, I have told my story and someone kind of said, oh, well, that's the best case scenario. And I said, yeah, it was the best case scenario for me. The other thing I want to talk about that nobody talks about is the pain afterward. People talk about the pain during childbirth, but the pain afterward to what I'm going to call your undercarriage is substantial. At least it was for me. Now, this whole entire video is with that caveat that everyone is different. But as far as I've heard, everyone has had that pain in their undercarriage. So you're going to want to be prepared for that. They are going to give you a bunch of little mesh underwears. They're going to have an ice pack for you. They're going to have a little squirt bottle for you to clean your undercarriage, and they're also going to give you witch hazel pads, which will help with the swelling. So you're going to want to use all of those. It's going to be painful to sit. It's going to be painful to sit up. It's going to be painful to slide down, like when you're in bed. I remember coming home with our son, and when I would sit up in bed in the middle of the night when he was crying so I could feed him, that was painful. And don't even think about sitting up while you're holding your baby, because I felt like I had to use both hands to sort of position myself where I needed to go. So I feel like that pain was something nobody talked about. So hopefully that'll get you a little bit mentally prepared for that. The other thing I want to talk about is breastfeeding. And in a later episode, I really want to have my sister come on and talk about this because she knows a lot more about this than I do. But here's the thing about breastfeeding. Whatever you can do is okay. Don't torture yourself. Don't make yourself feel bad or feel any shame if you can't solely or even breastfeed at all. It's my personal opinion that fed is best. If your baby's going to do formula, if you're going to breastfeed, if you produce enough, fed is best. So, it was really difficult for us in the hospital with breastfeeding. My son didn't really want to latch. We talked to a lactation consultant. We talked to a nurse about we talked to several nurses about the breastfeeding. Ultimately, I went home feeling very discouraged about breastfeeding. I didn't know what to do, how to get things going. You're going to start out with this thick honey-like solution called colostrum, and I always forget the name of it. Anyway, they're going to show you a video, maybe, at your hospital. They did it at the hospital where I had my son. They're going to show you a video of these women that have colostrum that's coming out in big drops. I barely had any coming out. And then the lactation specialist comes along and makes me feel bad that I sent my son to the nursery for the night and they gave him a bottle. You've just gone through an emotional roller coaster, a very painful situation, and here comes the lactation specialist saying that you should be breastfeeding instead of, letting them give your infant a bottle. So she basically, like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lactation consultant, but it basically made me feel like less of a mother, and I had only been a mother for less than 24 hours. So here's the thing. Don't get discouraged. Do what you can. If you can't breastfeed your child, it's not the end of the world. And there's a study that I just saw that came out that said there is no difference in cognitive development between a child who is breastfed and a child who is fed with formula. I have never produced enough to keep my son full. So it's like we fed him with formula and kind of supplemented with breast milk. I did do some pumping. It was very stressful because every time I pumped, I only maybe got 20 or 40 milliliters. On a good day, I got an ounce. My sister came up and was able to talk me through all the breastfeeding. She is a breastfeeding consultant. And so that seriously raised my confidence for breastfeeding. And then soon after, my son started to latch and everything was really great. But like I said, I still couldn't produce enough to keep him full. This is my opinion. It might not be yours, which is fine. It's fine for all of us to have different opinions. But my opinion and my stance is fed is best. It doesn't make you any less of a mother if you can't breastfeed. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a mother. I breastfeed intermittently. So that doesn't make me any less of a mother. So take that for what it is, but that's one thing that they don't really talk about before you have a child. So the other thing I want to talk about is maternity leave. If you have a company that will pay for maternity leave, that's fantastic. The government here in the United States doesn't recognize maternity leave as they should. I could take 3 months off, but it wasn't paid. So the thing that saved me was short-term disability. Tempe, what are you doing? But when I started my job and I went into my orientation for my benefits, they didn't tell me that short-term disability was also for maternity leave. They only sort of painted the picture that short-term disability should be used maybe if you lose a limb or if you have a prolonged illness. Short-term disability is for maternity leave. So if you're a young woman, even if you don't plan on having children, just check that short-term disability. Have them take that $4 out a month from your paycheck. It will seriously save you. I only got about 80% of my paycheck, but I still got that money. And without it, we kind of would have been underwater a little bit. So remember that as well. That's something that nobody tells you. Oh, one of the things I regret about my son's birth is not videoing. I should have put the GoPro on my head. Don't be afraid to do that. You know, you don't have to video in that birthing area. Just put the GoPro on your head, or have your husband put the GoPro on his head. That way you're free to do whatever else you need to do. Hold the baby, whatever. But I really wish I would have had that GoPro on my head. I can see it. I can see him, the doctor holding him up, and my husband saying, "It's a boy," and I'm gonna cry. But I really wish we would have videoed that moment. So I hope you enjoyed these few little tips that I had, things that people might not have told you about childbirth, and I hope I didn't get too gross or too much information. I don't think I did. But I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But the biggest takeaway from this is everyone is different. But don't be worried. It'll be a fantastic experience. I say fantastic so much, don't I, bud? I hope you're having a great week. We're pretty excited for the weekend. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. What do you think, Mr. Man? What do you